my screen. I can show how it works.
Yeah, I
And
would
then,
like to know, okay, here are the things that I would like to get a demo from you, Marcus. One, how it works. Two, how it is set up. And three, if you want to set it up, how would you set it up? Right?
right,
So
okay, yeah.
those are the three things I'd like to know. And with the caveat, you can give the caveat saying, hey, this is pre-configured on Drupal Forge as a demo. If you
Yeah,
actually wanted to do this, you would have to take all these different steps to do this, because that is something I think Will can present, I can present, other people can present as well when showing off this demo. So as long as people understand this is how it works, this is how you use it, and this is how it was set up, and this is how you would set it up.
right.
Uh,
Got it, got it.
that would be, I think, that would be very useful to people. Now, is this application is this application show up in the Drupal Forge list of templates?
Not in the start page. On our freely give and the link I send you, you can start it. But it is
Okay,
built on a template, so it should start fast and everything. You don't have to wait for it. And
okay,
it is so what I tried to solve that took so long time was to how to have pre-index stuff, because we have like 6,000 modules in this case. So when you show it, you have to log in, you have to go to the first page. I think there is a bug where you actually have to flush the cache the first time, perhaps. So you will get a view with all the modules that exist in Drupal. So if you happen to know, you're looking for ECA, you should be able to just use a traditional search, but you see it kind of sucks because there's a lot of stuff with ECA in it. Um, but then you have the chatbot where you can ask, I want to build Reddit. Would you suggest some modules for that? Uh,
Okay.
oh yeah, so
Well,
this is
hold on a second.
uh,
So you're saying that the AI is using AI smart search or AI search as well, or AI has this in its little free feed and it's able to work with this information? Is it using the Zilix or whatever, the
it's
Postgres,
using
whatever it's, yeah.
PostgreSQL, so I can actually show how it works in the
And
back.
so this is a example of AI search versus
Yeah,
an example of free feeding it. Like it's into this AI is independent of the search information going into it. Like I could have a SharePoint hitting the DB from the other side, and this AI is going to be able to go out and get that information.
well, no, this can't really go out and get some information. This is pre-indexed in this case. So what we have here, we have a vector database, and we have
Mhm.
6,000 nodes, which are module with module descriptions. So I can just open one here so you can see what data we have. We also have AI augmented information. So we have the description. This is just from the API, right? We also have
Uh-huh.
a summary. This means that if we chunk up, so vector search works by chunking up big. Uh, if you have too much in a data description, it's very hard to find so-called semantic uh, what's it called? Basically, how close is this to this text? What you're asking for, how close is this to this text? So you need to have a
Mhm.
summary on each. We also have affordances. How can you use this module? What could you use it for? Examples that the AI came up with. Um, and this has then been indexed. So you can actually go to the VectorDB Explorer. So it's one of the AI API explorers. Choose the index and ask something like, I don't know, food recipes. I don't know if there's a module around this, but you will see actually the chunks that is closest to what I'm writing here, right? So in this
Mhm.
case, it's the recipe module. And you can see that there's some extra data here, down here, but everything before that is the chunk then. So it's the title, the chunk, and some extra data. And this is what's happening when this chatbot then is being asked. So what's happening here? I want to build Reddit. Could you suggest some modules for this? And this then has an assistant being set up and doing so-called agentic search, which is very different. So there's two ways of, well, there's multiple ways of doing RAG, but there are two main ways. There is so-called naive RAG. Naive RAG just means that you take whatever someone writes and search for that. But of course, if I search for, I want to rebuild Reddit, that doesn't really mean anything. It will just look for stuff that looks like Reddit, which will probably be Reddit connectors or whatever, connect to Reddit API, stuff like that. And that is not interesting if you're trying to rebuild Reddit, right? You're interested in
Right.
how can I moderate comment? How can I set points on a comment or a post and so on? So what this does instead, it goes to an LLM, which is an agent that has an instruction that is basically try to figure out what this user is trying to do and start searching for different words or semantic meanings of what that person is doing. Take all those results and write a summary back to them. And that is what you're getting here. So that's why you can see it's actually answering, like for forum and discussion, you can use forum notification, forum access, social profiles, profile module, social media platform, one all, social login. So there's a lot of modules there that, well, totally makes sense if you want to rebuild Reddit. And because it can search on semantic meaning, one very good example here, I don't know if it will work now because we have a cheap model. We took it down a notch, but we can try. Like if we ask this, my reminder password mails in Outlook doesn't work. It says someone clicked on it already. Is there a module for this? Because this is a very good example. If it works now with this model, we have a cheaper model here. Because this is called one-time shy login, I think, this module. And what the problem that is happening is Drupal, when you say, I forgot my password, sends an email, right? This email is only available to click one time. So you can't reuse this link that it produces.
Mhm.
Outlook goes in and clicks this to look for viruses, which means that this doesn't work. Yeah, so to be honest, you probably need a better model for it to work because this was not what I was looking for. So there is this shy one-time login module that is extremely bad in the description on search words. So you would never find it in Google. You would like to have to know this module. And this is an example where this works well, but it works better when you have not the mini models, but the actual normal models, because they can reason a little bit what I'm trying to figure out, basically.
Did it give you the correct answer, or what happened?
No, it gives okay answers. It doesn't give the best module for this. It would probably do it if we use 4.1 normal instead of 4.1 mini in this case.
Got it.
So anyway, this is agentic then, so you have to write something like this, but this is an example then, so you can try it out. Just have to say like what is the threshold of any result and so on. If
Actually, go back to those parameters when you say this is the threshold and all those. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
yes, so if we go back here, if I'm searching for food recipe, this chunk gives back a score of 0.46, right? The relevancy for food recipe to this chunk is 0.46. Here I set a threshold. What should the actual results have as a threshold before the AI even looks at it? Because you don't want to overfeed it. Like here is 200 results. Try to figure out which one works. It's just going to hallucinate. It's too much context for it. So in
Right.
this case, we say either over 0.3 or if you hit more than 10, just stop there, right? And then which index. Then if you turn on, let's just try this again. Maybe it's because it's not deterministic, it might be better. So what you will see also is doing this, right? Calling RAG vector search. So you will actually all the time see what it's doing. And it might be that it's doing multiple searches in this case. But yeah, this was still this module rest password. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. So this module is probably new and it actually works for this as well. So it is actually a good answer as well. So this example might not work anymore or won't be as good because this probably has some better, let's see here, description for it. No. Yeah. Anyway, how it's set up then in dev panel, I will share that here. So it is literally just on the custom package installer. We have an installation of Postgres plus PG vector. And that is it. I mean, there's a lot of recipes and so on around that. The most important thing then of the recipe logic is that so that is the setup. Let's see here. Where do we?
This is the part I was really interested in. I want to know how you did this.
Yeah, so this is, I guess, the other important thing. So we just have set up AI. I think I copied from you, Darren. So that is just setting up like the normal AI settings and so on. I think I might have added then the vector database, just passwords and stuff like that. We have then a module, or it's a recipe, but it's gonna download a module. So it's called the Drupal module chatbot recipe. So you can do this locally as well if you want to have it running locally and start playing around. And this has a command that is basically project browser add information or something it stands for, I'm not sure. And this basically creates all the entity structure and all the entities. So it is all these 6,000 modules added. And then it just starts indexing them. Because I ran into rate limit, I had to add a sleep 2 in between every 10 indexes. So we didn't run into the rate limit. But the cool thing now then is when this is done, we dump the PostgreSQL database. So we're running this in GitHub Actions. We dump the PostgreSQL database and we import it when we start it in dev panel. So that's how it can start quickly and you don't have to pay for indexing every time someone starts this machine. So it is basically these two files solving it. And for the, I guess in quick start, then I also added for the dumping it. And then in init container, I added somewhere to, yeah, here, to import the PG vector database. And that's why we chose Postgres as well. It's very easy to dump and import using it. And that, yeah, that is it basically. The bad thing about this then, I can show you, I was playing around with it, but there was really no good solution to it. So I played around with moving the whole data set and everything to var vv HTML. Because right now, if you start a machine and then stop it and then start it again, the database is gone. Because this is stored on the machine, of course, instead of being stored on the drive that you attach to it. So this actually makes sure that it's stored on the drive that attached to it, but when it gets restarted, the setting of the service. I mean, the service file in Linux is still on the machine, and this we can't put under var vv HTML, and this still have to point to the new location, which means we need some kind of a hook after it's restarted every time in that case, if we're ever gonna have that working. So for now, it only works when you start a new machine, and as long as you run it, but not for restarting.
So if it's paused and then restarted, it's going to lose.
It's gonna lose all the information that it's connected to the vector database.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not gonna lose the information. The information is there if I uncomment this, but you're not gonna be able to use it unless you do some manual stuff.
Okay.
So because the service file points to a file under etc something, etc Postgres, and this is the one we need to repoint them to, like /var HTML.
Okay. All right. So let's work on that offline.
Yeah.
How did you create this this vector database? So if somebody wanted to create this vector database based on the content that they have on their site, how would they create this vector database?
Yeah.
And then how would they set this up themselves?
So first you have to have a database, and if you want to try it on DDev, I can give you Postgres, Milvus, whatever you want there. That's just a file. And then almost all of them have like some provider settings. So, this is the wrong one. This is my local one. Here is what we want to do. So we have a configuration here then. And you see it's running on localhost because it is running on the machine. So you set up the vector database you want to connect it, and this has then let me just show you. It has well, kind of validation. It will just fail if you're trying to save something that's not correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it works, and when you have done that, you're just using Search API. So how that works is when you add a server, oh, that is interesting. Let's see if we can edit. No. Oh, I hope maybe it's saved my settings now. Oh, that might be a bug. No, didn't. See what's wrong here. Could not load the OpenAI key. Okay, I think I know what's wrong here. This we might have to fix. The problem is that when you're using vector search, we need to know the embeddings. And right now it's trying to load the embeddings from OpenAI because OpenAI is also installed, but there is no key there because we don't have OpenAI key. We just have it installed. Okay. Wait, I just show it on a local for now. So here it should be working, I think. Search API. I have to file a bug for this. So basically, you know how you can install a database search or a Solr search or Elasticsearch or search or something like this. We now then have an AI search, and that is just like one parent on top of any AI search you might have. So it doesn't matter if it's Milvus or Postgres, you can have both running, and it has its own setting here where you can set the database you want to use. This is what is failing there because it wants to load the embeddings engine from OpenAI as well. So you have to choose one of them. And there's a lot of consideration that needs to go into this, but basically if it's English and if it's pretty small content like the modules, you can use them, any of the OpenAI small or large embeddings. One of these two is okay. You have to set database name, it's DB. And this is table when you're talking about Postgres then, so I can just call it whatever. Similarity metric, you should really use cosine similarity for everything. That's how it does the math to figure out what you're asking for and the vectors of the chunked data. But cosine similarity is the fastest. So that's the one you should always be using. Dimensions, you don't really have to think about that. It's directly connected to model. The only time it might make sense is if you have very easy content and you want to save money and time. You should take a smaller embeddings model, or OpenAI actually allows you to set this dynamically. So with OpenAI, I could actually change this number, but by default, you can't change this number. Embedding strategy, you should just use the enriched unless you're trying to basically index books as one node type. So if you take the whole Bible or something and put into one node, so you have this humongous content, then you can use the enriched composite embedding, but otherwise just use the enriched embedding strategy. Chunks is how big should the chunks be? So the important thing is there, the bigger the chunk is, the lower the score is. Because what you're trying to do is basically take these 500 tokens or 500 words, something around 500 words, and figure out on a vector space, so a three-dimensional space of numbers where this belongs. And these numbers then, they stand for different meanings. So when you're writing your thing, it creates a vector of these numbers and compares this to the vector of those numbers and sees how far away are we, and that is the score you get. So that is how it can have semantic meaning, and that's why it's better than regular search, because stuff like I don't know, a good module and a great plugin, they are almost on the same place in the vector space. So if I search for a great plugin or a good module, both things will be extremely close to it if it's actually about a good module, for instance. So that's why it can search for meaning, like, I'm looking for environmental friendly, I don't know, grocery or something like that, and it's aware that this is not meat, for instance. You should eat vegetables for that or whatever. So, but then the chunk size is basically how much do you condense? So the smaller, the more exact it's gonna be, and the higher you can set this threshold. But the smaller it is, the less you give in the case that you want to give it to the LLM to, read this and do something with it. The smaller the text is that it can read. So with such a thing like the modules, it actually makes sense to set this really high so you can try to, put the whole module into a chunk. So when you get 10 search results, it is actually 10 modules you're getting back, and not, a very short snippet from one module and a very short snippet from another module, and maybe the same module is 8 out of 10 results or something because it's very relevant. Then we have chunk overlap. That's just adding 100 tokens in the beginning and the end. So if you get chunk content, so the start of a module and the next part of a module, it understands, okay, these are glued together. So the LLM can actually understand this from having a suffix and a prefix from one chunk. Contextual content, maximum percentage. I'm going to show you what contextual content is, but this is basically things that you want to have on every thing you add. So after you save this, you have to set up an index then. Okay, I have to install that, but that doesn't matter for what I'm showing now. And our index works as same as the search API. I think I only have page on here. So if I take page content, basic page, so this is Drupal CMS. I say the server is test. Something you should do with vector search is either take down the cron batch size and know that if you index items immediately, it's going to take some time, because figuring out these vectors is a pretty heavy process. Actually figuring out if vectors are related, that's super fast. That is what a vector database is superior compared to a normal database at. But actually figuring out the vectors might take some time. So if you set a cron batch size of 50, that might take a minute or something like that. And if you're running the cron every minute, you might run over, and then you're not running every minute all of a sudden because you put something too high here. And then adding the fields then is a little bit different to how you usually do it in Search API, because when you add a field, so if we take I guess the content field, description field, title field we can take here. We could be interested in the ID. So if we want to link to this node, we need the ID. But you can also use the URI then, say absolute URI. So when I've set up this, there's a specific indexing option that is completely specific for vector database. So main content is the thing that's getting chunked up. So that is the big body you have. And if you don't have a body, what you should do is use a rendered version of your web page. So if what you're doing is just a lot of details, I don't know, a shopping web page with just a short summary or something, just take and render the whole page, right? And the rest is contextual content, means that this will be part of every chunk. So something that is important is, of course, the title. Title is always important for context. If you're, I don't know, if you're writing poems and have an author, the author is always important, and so on. ID. So what you can do also, you can set ignore. Ignore means that it doesn't really matter for the search, but it's still there when the LLM looks at the chunk. But in this case, we might want to ask, actually, can you fetch me a node ID 20 or something?
I didn't realize that ignore would still get indexed.
It's well, it's not indexed, it's just shown as far as I know.
Okay.
So when you're searching, it doesn't matter for the actual vector search, but when the LLM looks at that chunk, it's still there.
So it's still a part of the answer to the question.
Exactly. But it's not part of the query, if
Okay.
I remember correctly how it works. Filterable attributes is for the vector databases that can do filtering, because something you can do with this as well. Everyone is focusing on like the chatbot, but something that you can do that's immensely powerful with this is something we call boost searching, where you can actually take a search index, a normal search index, and you can merge this with the vector database. So the search actually becomes a lot smarter. So if you take the example I said before with, a great plugin, and those words doesn't exist in that module description, it's still gonna find that module, because if it doesn't find something in the normal search, it gets boosted via the vector search instead. And some of them allows for filters. So you can actually use views and filter this. This is a little bit dangerous because not all of them do. So Milvus doesn't do it, for instance. So if you add that, it has, I think we trigger a warning or something, but otherwise it doesn't really do anything. It's just garbage lying around there. And then, oh yeah, okay. I haven't installed pgvector. That was the error I was throwing about before. So anyway, when you have done that, then you can just start indexing everything. And when you have indexed it, you can use this Explorer that we have, VectorDB, to explore and start searching for it. And that is, I guess that is it. I can show you, I guess, if I take processors here, there should be, oh yeah, here, AI search score threshold. So you can actually use this processor if you want to connect this index then to a normal search. then you can use this one, and it's gonna use the normal search. And then on a normal search, you can do the opposite. As far as I know, it's like AI boost or something, the processor is called there. So if you want to connect it to the normal search instead of the, a chatbot, then. Yeah, that's it, I guess.
So you just showed us how to build the vector database.
Yeah, I mean, it is in this repo. So if you're talking about the actual service, or the application of a vector database or PG vector, it is there. So and that
you
is
just connected to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what did you walk us through right now?
It is setting up an index.
Setting up an index. Okay, so
if you create the articles or something else that's not modules, that is how you would do it. So if you want to create an article chatbot or whatever.
Okay, so if I wanted to index my entire site, that's how I would do that. So you just walked us through that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's the next step I would do? So connect my chatbot or search to that index. How would I be doing that?
So the next thing you do is create an assistant then. It's under AI assistants. We have one created here, but I can just add a new one so you see. What is important there, and you should probably look at the example I gave, is that this is an agent that loops over. So this is an instruction that loops over and over, where it takes decisions. So a decision it can take in this case is search. Go ahead and search and get some search results and check if you're happy with those search results. If not, maybe search on something else. If you're happy with that, maybe search on something else. And if you don't find something, then just give up and tell the end user, oh, it doesn't look like we have any information.
Got it.
And this you can control via the prompt. You can also then, what is important is that you enable RAG. You can also add actual agents to it. So if you have I don't know, you have articles about food or something like this, you could ask it like, hey, can you go ahead and look at all the different food that we have on here and create a recipe content type and what fields I need there, if you then have the agents installed. And it would first go ahead and do a RAG search, gather information, and then start creating the content type and fields. So you can combine this and pretty cool stuff if you want. But anyway, you enable the RAG search, add the RAG database that you have, added threshold, max results, and yeah, you have to write the instruction. Then when you have done that, just under blocks, there's a block called the deep chat block. I guess we have it in Claro. So, and this just controls the visual style of it. So, I can do stuff like, I want collapse minimal. I want to say something else. Just say hello when it starts. Oops. Hello. The name of it, stuff like that. But the important thing is here then which AI assistant you connected to. So if I save this now, yeah, now it looks small instead, for instance, and it says hello when we start because I changed this. And that's how you control this. There's coming a lot more cool styles where it can be full page, which would make sense in this case because it's like the main event. But that's not done yet, but it is something that's coming.
Okay. And did you talk about how to connect it to search? I think you did, right?
Yes. So I guess I could actually do it if you want. So if we just take the database search in this case, where are you there? So we enable that.
You might want to turn on the defaults too, so it'll create the index.
Oh, right.
Won't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there should be one index if you do that. Oh, I hope it doesn't index everything yet. because there's 6,000 contents. Well, while it's doing that, let's go to search API. No, it seems like it's just setting up some stuff. So now we have the database server. Under the index, there should be a processor, I guess. Boost
This
database
is,
by AI search. So this is the
Yeah.
one you want to enable.
this makes your search really awesome.
And then you just connect it to the index, that is the vector database index in this case. Set the minimum relevant stores and how many results to return.
And what does this do? This does the regular search.
This does the regular search, so it becomes better, basically. No, but it does the regular search, so it becomes semantic search. So you can
It puts
actually,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, you can actually search for meaning. So you can search for words that doesn't exist in the actual text. Because and truly meaning as well. Because of course, if you set up a really good Solr or Elasticsearch database, you're going to have a synonyms database. You're probably going to even have a domain-specific synonyms database. So I worked with Mercedes. We had like huge database of synonyms of models and what their nicknames were and stuff like that, right? So if you were to search for those nicknames, you would still find them. But if your text says something like, I know Jamie always does this example, like if you have a e-shop and you say this T-shirt was created by slaves, just says that in the description, then you can ask something like, I want to buy clothes that are immoral, right? And not a single of the words I asked for now was in that description. It's still gonna have a high relevancy because of the semantic meaning there.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it takes the normal search and improves it.
Got it. Okay. So you talked about how to create the index for the content that I have on my site. You talked about how to connect you take the index, how to create an agent from it, then how to connect the agent to the chatbot, and how to connect the agent to search.
Yeah.
Right. And then so those we covered. What we did not talk about is that you built the index on the vector database that was already there, that you had already created.
Yeah.
Beforehand. So we didn't talk about how you create the vector database, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I showed the script that I'm using for it. So
Right.
in the end, it's, that's software you have to install via inside your dev panel then. So if you're
Okay.
using gdev, there's just simple Docker Compose files I can provide.
Okay.
But I just went for the simplest to install and luckily the simplest to import and export data, which is Postgres. So I know installing Milvus locally, if you don't have Docker access, is not fun. So a
Okay.
lot of components to install there.
Okay. So what we have today on Drupal Forge works great, works fine for a demo. But if we want to do like index our own content or something, we need to have more functionality added.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if you're gonna offer it as a service, so you can, start this and then move it to the actual cloud or something like that as a production thing, you might have to look into something similar to what you're doing with normal databases, that it actually starts a partition or starts its own, cloud table, something like
Yeah.
that. But that costs money, of course.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm thinking it should be if you wanted a PG vector database along with
Yeah.
something you wanted to spin up, it
Yeah.
would be like a click to enable, just like you turn on PHP by admin or
Yeah.
VS Code. It would be that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
give me my vector database, and then it reconfigures and spins it up and tells
Yeah.
you how to connect to it and everything.
Yeah, and we wouldn't need to have MySQL if we had Postgres.
Right. The important thing you have to know there, it has to have the extension PG vector, which not all managed Postgres allows you to install. But as long as it's allowing that, you can use Postgres for both.
So then you could like choose which database backends you wanted to spin up with your site.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Anything else, guys? Are we missing anything else? And Marcus, we're going to make a recording of this and connect it to this application. So anything else you want to talk in that recording?
No. I mean, I'm not so eloquent in actually talking about why this matters. Jamie is very good at that. It's very much the tech stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing to maybe stress with this search instead of having a chatbot, the cool thing with, outside of it improving search is, of course, that if you don't put LLM in front of it, will not hallucinate. So this is something you can just enable and use in production, where you don't have to, do a lot of tests. Like, is this hallucinating? Is this making up stuff? Can I do prompt injection? Can I make it say something funny? This is something you can just enable and it makes search better. So while the chatbot, it's a lot of work to get it production ready.
You said there, can I make it say something funny? Something that I've thought about is like being able to add personality to these things to like make it be crazy.
Yeah, I
To
mean,
add to have it talk back in different tones of voices or whatnot.
that is very doable. And you could even use RAG databases for it if you have a lot of tone of voices you want to use. So, look up the tone of voice first and then you could have look up the tone of voice based on who you're talking to, and then adapt it. So because it is agentic, it can do over and over and over until it creates a response. I could also add, of course, I talked a lot about shit about naive RAG. The good thing with naive RAG is it just goes and searches and gives you a response. So you get the response back in seconds. While agentic RAG, of course, is like, let's search for something. Oh, this search result was not good. Let's search for something else until it's happy and gives you back a result. This result is better, but it takes time.
Yeah. I have a question. So what we set up today, is it using the LLM service in the back end, the light LLM service that we've set up for doing every time you do a search or every time you do a chat, interact with the chatbot? Is it using that service to
Yes.
do its work?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
And then how many credits is it using up when it's using that service?
depends on what you're asking. So if you're asking, I want to rebuild Reddit, it's gonna do a lot of searches, of course, because it needs to ask a lot of different stuff. Like, do you have a module about comments? Do you have a module about moderation? Do you have a module about like, dislike, and so on? If you ask a simple question, it might just do one search and then find it, and that search result might not be too big. But I would guess it's for a complex thing like the Reddit, it's probably a couple of cents to answer something like that.
Oh, it's not bad. Okay. Right.
Yeah,
And then
it's not dollars or something like that. It is cents. And of
Gotcha.
course, this description I gave, so the description of the agent, you can tune it to say like, hey, I'm not interested in actually knowing why you picked this. Just give me back links or something. And then it's a lot cheaper because it doesn't have to produce so much tokens.
Got it. Okay. And then so if we didn't have light LLM set up as a provider on the back end, you would have to insert your own OpenAI key or Claude key or whatever it is. You'd have to set up your own provider on the back end.
Yeah.
And then it would still use your vector database and your index and everything and provide answers to you based on that, right?
Yeah, the only thing that's important in that case, if you pre-populate the vectors, vectors are not agnostic. So you can't just take vectors saved from one provider and use them with another. It's a completely other language, basically, and they're good at different things depending on if what languages do you use, because if it's French, there are other vectors that are better and so on. So if you have indexed them with, I don't know, OpenAI's text embedding small or something like that, you have to have OpenAI as the key that you're asking for. You can't ask for Anthropic key, then it's not going to work.
Okay, but different models within OpenAI would be okay.
That would, yeah, I mean, the LLM doesn't matter. We can have any LLM, but the embeddings provider has to be the exact same.
Okay. Okay. And then when I use that, is my data leaked is my data used for training by OpenAI or by Claude or Anthropic or somebody, or is my data safe with me and stays with me?
For the chatbot, the LLM call, I'm pretty sure they're taking it in training. There hasn't been confirmations, but they're not saying that they're doing it. So one can assume that they're doing it. For the embeddings, I don't think. I mean, embeddings is not something where you actually have to teach it something per se. Embeddings is a mathematical formula. So if you're asking the same thing over and over to OpenAI's embeddings, you're going to have the same result over. So that is something that is deterministic. So I'm not sure if they are interested in it. I mean, I know they have to log it right now because of the New York Times, whatever, they're in legal trouble. So the judge has said that they have to log everything right now. But I don't think they're actually that interested in that part. So if you were to add just search without the chatbot, I don't think it would matter. But I can also say for embeddings, it's one of the few things where I haven't looked at the leaderboard in sometimes, but it used to be at least that the local models, the open source models, were better, or the free models, not all of them are open source. Because it is a pretty simple process, actually. While the LLMs, they're, OpenAI, Gemini, Grok, and so on is a lot better. But for the embeddings, you could use a local model for this.
You'd need it active for the question answering though, too.
Sorry?
Because you'd need it active for answering the questions though, because your question gets turned into an embedding to match against the embeddings in the database, right?
Yes. So if you set it up locally, you would have to have Olama or something, but that would cost you a lot of money, I guess. But you could have a central Olama for it, maybe.
Okay, so couple of other questions. So one, I thought that if I was using OpenAI's API, anything that I use, all the calls to the API are all private and they're not logged.
No. If you want to use OpenAI and want to make sure that it's not logged, you should use it via Azure. So
I should use what?
Via Azure. So you can set up an OpenAI model hosted in your network in Azure. That is possible. And that comes with a lot of better like terms and conditions. It comes with better SLA and so on.
Okay.
But it costs more, of course, as well. And it's we have an Azure provider you can use. It's quite more complex than just adding an API key. But that is a possibility. And that's the same if you use Google Vertex or use AVS. Those models, so if you use Anthropic inside AVS, if you use Gemini inside Google Vertex, those, they, claim that they will not log you at all.
Okay. And then what other open source models could I use that won't log my data or keep my data private?
In terms of providers, I would guess that, I mean, if you're talking about providers over network, I'm guessing Mistral is probably fairly good because it's based in EU, so there's like 100 billion regulations here of what you're allowed and not allowed to do. But if you really want to make sure, you should, of course, use Llama on your own hosted something. Because then it's never gonna leak. I'm guessing stuff like RunPod or Replit, where you can host stuff like this as well. They don't really care about what you're doing on your machine, but who knows?
Say that again.
So there's like RunPod, Replit, they offer GPU in the cloud basically, where you could, well, Replit you could create a provider around, but you can also host Llama and so on these machines.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure they will not, look at your content or look into your servers at all.
Got it. Okay, interesting. All right, cool. I think that can be another session all by itself. So, but thank you for the intro.
Yeah, I would have
Yeah.
to research all the providers more as well. The only thing
Yeah,
if you really want to make sure you set up your own bare metal and set up Llama on it, and that's,
yeah.
still the network provider in between can of course maybe sniff in over. I don't know if they can break SSL now or not, but in
Right.
theory that could happen, I guess.
Yeah. I will also research the OpenAI. I thought they said that anything you use on the API is not used for training, but let me.
It could be that it's not used for training, but they are 100% logging it because of this New York Times legal problems therein. I know.
Right.
That so it doesn't guarantee it doesn't mean that anybody's going to see it, but the possibility is there.
Right.
And it's only during the legal mess that they're in.
And that as far as I know, they're obfuscating like who the end user is there. But of course, if you write something private in the actual chat, then it is stored.
Right. Okay.